This is the Breakfast Leadership Podcast. Boundaries or burnout, you make the choice. Here's your host, Michael Levitt. Welcome back. Jonathan Kaiser is the founder and thought leader behind Kaiser, the largest occupier services commercial real estate brokerage firm in Arizona. Through sheer determination and focus on selfless service, Jonathan is disrupting the commercial real estate industry and beyond. He's a best-selling author, media contributor, and strong supporter of the Conscious Capitalism movement. Jonathan is here with us today to share his journey, his mission, and selfless service approach to business, and his new book, You Don't Have to Be Ruthless to Win. His book's not really about him, though. It's about you. Jonathan will share how you can activate selflessness in your life and see how this is why counterintuitive strategy can create extraordinary long-term success in your own business and your life. Welcome to the show, Jonathan.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. Thank you for being on. And as we were talking about in the pre-show, your book debuted at number 1 on the Wall Street Journal. That's no small feat. And that is
surreal, actually.
Well, you know, and the thing of it is why it didn't surprise me, because I was fortunate enough to be able to read an early copy of the book, was it touches on so many things that people are starving for right now. And one of the things is we see about it in the news and in articles and everything, everywhere we read, where workplace stress, workplace burnout, high turnover rates, dysfunctioning teams, bad management. It doesn't matter what industry it is, it's rampant.
Yep.
So people are looking for opportunities to figure out, is there a better way? And the answer is, of course, yes, there is. And so your book, I know, touches on it quite a bit. So tell us a little bit, what motivated you to write the book? What was one of those things to say, okay, I'm going to dedicate a big chunk of my life to really dig deep and put all of these thoughts and ideas to paper?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Well, first of all, thanks again for having me on. You have an extraordinary show, an extraordinary following, and your message, I think, is relevant in today's world. It takes a village for us to really transform culture, and someone that is as adamant about it as you are is very, very near and dear to my heart. So thank you for that. For me, this has been a lifelong journey, even though at the time I didn't quite realize what was going on. It just, I was raised by parents who taught me to help other people, right? As many good parents do. I was actually a missionary kid. I grew up part of my life in Papua New Guinea, and all my parents were about was helping other people. And when I got back from overseas, I was in 7th grade, and I had this rude awakening where I realized in an instant that I was poor, and I had no concept of that when I was overseas. And so as I experienced what it was like to be really poor and literally living in a trailer down by the river, I, deep in my young brain, decided I was going to be successful. So I got into commercial real estate brokerage because a buddy of mine said I could be rich and said I could make a lot of money doing it. So I got into that, not to help other people. I got into it to make money. And as I got in, I realized really quickly, wow, this is a ruthless industry, and everybody's scratching and clawing and fighting. And so I'm like, okay, I don't want to be broke like my parents. If this is what it takes to be successful, I'm in. So I became Mr. Ruthless. And, I'm a little bit of an overachiever, Michael. And so when I do something, I do it maybe a little bit more intensely than most. And so I became the ruthless prick. And it was, it's not like I had amazing success, because it takes a long time in commercial real estate to make money, but I was on my way. I was National Rookie of the Year at a big firm, and it seemed like I had, everything going for me. But the reality is inside I was miserable. I was misaligned with my core values. I felt like I was having to behave, not even having, because obviously it was a choice, but I felt like I had to behave in this ruthless fashion if I wanted to survive in a cutthroat industry. And then 15 years ago, I go to this conference, and this guy gets up And he starts talking about a different way. He starts talking about success through service. And I'd never heard anything like it. And after I made sure that he was not full of crap, I vetted him a little bit. I realized, wow, this is really possible. How come nobody's told me about this before? So I reinvented myself around helping other people. And now I've built an extraordinary firm around it. So to answer your question is, for me, I needed that example. I needed that speaker to share with me that it was even possible in a cutthroat industry to be successful. And I'm trying to help other people see that. So again, we're not perfect. My firm is amazing, but what we're really about is showing other people that there is a better way, that you could be successful by helping others succeed, that you truly don't have to be ruthless to win. And by us showing that that's possible in commercial real estate brokerage, it's possible in any industry. And so for me, this book has been almost an 8-year journey where I decided after talking to my coach that at first I thought nobody's going to care about, my journey and my story. And then I realized that, wow, there's a lot of other people like me that are out there that feel trapped, that feel like they're stuck in an industry behaving in ways that they don't necessarily, they're being honest with themselves, agree with. And that, they're doing it because they feel like they need to put, food on the table. And what if there was a better way? What if you could actually do the right thing, focus on helping other people, and have extraordinary success? So I've taken everything that I've learned, trial and error, all the way, how we built the largest firm of our kind in the state of Arizona around this principle of selfless service. And I've put it into this book so that the reader has everything they need to do to be able to create a culture of selfless service, a culture of success through service within their own organizations.
There's so much leadership gold in what you did in this book, and the 8-year journey and everything, including in your book you talk about the backstabbing that's in real estate. And my grandmother and my mom actually worked in real estate when I was a kid, and now I didn't notice it back then, but now I know, based in Toronto, as competitive as a market this is for housing, you can sense that when you see different realtors and the ads that they're running and how they interact with each other. If you happen to catch two of them in the same place, it's really, really intriguing, the dynamics of it. And, and I can definitely see where in that particular industry, and it's not exclusive to real estate, I've seen in other industries as well, where, the out to get everybody, and I need to protect my corner of the pie here, really jumps out. And, one of the things I tell people is oftentimes people live in this scarcity type of mindset where they're afraid if they don't do something, they're going to miss out on, getting the revenue stream that they want. The revenue's there. There's more money out there than any of us could possibly access. And it's just a case of just making sure you get really crystal clear on what you're doing and how you can be of service to others, which, is, a principle of you and your organization. I know in your book, you refer to it as the Kaiser way. And I mean, I love that you have an organization where there's, this mentality, and this is our mission. It's not, it doesn't necessarily need to be on a poster on a wall in the boardroom that no one looks at, but it's just, it's something that's deep within the DNA of people that work there. They just get it. They understand it. And when that can be replicated outside of those walls and out into society, and people start following this mantra of, yes, there is a better way of doing things, the ripple effect it causes is absolutely amazing.
Well, I am humbled by your statements because, there's a lot of people that knew me before that, were very skeptical at the beginning because I was such a prick, but the idea that, part of this whole story is, look at me, I was a prick. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. Because I was deep in being that ruthless shark. And I think, in my book, chapter 5 is Trapped in the Crazy Commercial Real Estate Industry. I really believe that most people don't want to behave the way that the industry is. And it's not, obviously it's not everybody in the industry, but it's so widespread that everybody kind of knows it. Like it's laughable to say, like sometimes to elicit a chuckle out of somebody, I'll say, hey, so who are the top 3 people in your life that you trust the most? And like, is commercial real estate broker on the top of the list? And it's like laughable. Why is it laughable? Because everybody knows that commercial real estate brokers are out for themselves, right? And so in general, right? But I think that there's a lot of people who get into the industry like me, and they want to do the right thing. They want to help other people. They want to, be service, but they see how the environment is around them, and they see people getting trampled. And there's this sort of underlying philosophy that good guys can't win in a ruthless industry. And so part of my whole vision here is I want to change the industry, and I want to change the world. Like you said, it's not just commercial real estate. There's a ton of industries that need that. So just like I needed an example, if this book can serve not only as an example, but as a detailed roadmap for how they could create success through service. I think the issue that most people have, and if I can just punt, if I can just get up on my soapbox for a second, I think everybody kind of knows, Michael, that like you're supposed to do the right thing. Sort of like, well, no kidding. We all know that. Everybody kind of knows you're supposed to help other people and you're supposed to do good and blah, 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 blah. But the reality is like, we know that in our personal lives, we know that with our families and our close friends, and we act that way. But then when it comes to business, so many of us feel like we got to, leave that at home, put on our tough suit and go fight, and scratch and claw so we can put bread on the table. And my whole philosophy is, what if that wasn't necessary? And what if you could actually have your cake and eat it too? What if you could spend your time trying to help others and really go above and beyond for them, and then you could have success as well? What if you could connect success to selfless service? One of the mantras I was raised with was give and you shall receive. And it's like, but everybody knows that statement, but do people actually believe it? Do people actually believe that if you give, you receive? I think people forget the receive part and just remember the give. And it's like, but if I give, Jonathan, if I push this across the table, then what do I have? And it's like, in the long run, this isn't a get rich quick scheme. So anybody who's listening to this saying, how do I get rich tomorrow, doing Jonathan Kaiser's, you don't have to be ruthless to win Kaiser way model, this hang up now. This is not that. This is long-term sustainable success. But for those that are interested in saying, what if I could do the right thing? What if I could have integrity? What if I could take care of other people? What if I could actually serve and give of myself? How do I actually make money doing that? And that's what I try to outline for people in the book.
Yeah, and you do it quite well. And, there's one area in the book that jumped out at me because it reminded me of a book that I read. It's been around for a long time, Disease to Please. And you talk about pleasing prison. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, because you have a question in that section, talking about how does this make me feel, and something that you're doing. If it's not good, then I need to switch to more of a serving mentality. So if you could chime in on that a bit.
Sure. Yeah, I think that I'll just talk about myself. So before, it was all about trying to do or say or be in the moment what I felt would get me the most in return. So it was all a manipulation. It was all artificial, and it was all very, very gross and fake. And what I was trying to do is I was in that pleasing prison. I was trying to please other people to get what I wanted, rather than being authentic and really trying to serve and love them. So for me, the shift was significant, to go from feeling like you're a salesman in a room and trying to game every situation and read body language and all the normal stuff that we're taught in sales, to actually sitting across the table from somebody and forgetting about myself completely and just thinking about what's their needs, really probing, asking good questions, caring about them, listening to them. One of the things that people always say is, Jonathan, you're in a competitive business. Why would you write a book and tell everybody exactly how you do your business? Isn't that a little bit counterproductive? Don't you want to hide this stuff? And for me, it's like, no, because at the end of the day, I'm not describing in the book, as you read and you noted in the pre-call, This is not some tactical thing. This is not for people that are looking for yet another system to game. This is not that. This is wholesale, inside out transformation. You know, we teach at the Kaiser Institute, we teach a 3-step process. You got to start with yourself. So reinvention from the inside out. So you got to be first the change you want to see in the world, as Gandhi says. And then how do you build a culture within your organization, within your company? And then how do you be service outside of your organization? And so this is for those people who really are tired of feeling like they have to behave in ways in their jobs that are counter to their ethics, that are counter to how they feel like they want to act, but they feel trapped because they feel like if they don't, they're not going to have success. That's what I'm trying to teach them here. So the pleasing prison, the way you get out of that is by caring so much about the other people and being willing to put yourself in the rearview mirror and say, how can I serve this person? How can I best help this person? Then you're not in manipulation, you're in pure service. And when you're with somebody like that, the other thing that I found is it unlocks people, because most people are not used to being with someone who's there just to help them. They're used to being with people who have an agenda, and everybody seems to have an agenda. So for them to sit in a room with me, and I'm not trying to get anything from them. I'm not trying to like go, oh, you like golf? So do I. I'm just there to try to help them and figure out what they need. And amazing relationships are created in that space. And so that's my point is, this is all about speed to trust. This is all about how do you actually create authentic relationships, which is in any business, how you get more revenue, right? So that's the point of it all is this stuff is not like, hey, do the right thing because it's the right thing. That message is already out there. That's not my message. My message is succeed, win, dominate your industry by helping others succeed.
And it's a great way to approach it too. And I'm not surprised that you were questioned about, giving away the Colonel's secret recipe basically on how you do things, because one, you just said it, you're going to have your own success by helping other people succeed. And unfortunately, as I know we've both seen in this world, is, we could, have, okay, here's all the ingredients to make this work. And unfortunately, there's one component that a lot of people aren't necessarily willing to do, and it's called putting in the time to make it work. Yeah. Too often, even with social media, with our ever shrinking attention spans and everything else, we're used to, ordering our food in a microphone and drive around the corner and paying for it and getting a brown bag handed to us. Well, that's not a lot of work. And it's also not a lot of nutrition, but that's another story for another day. But the thing of it is how you lay this all out, and we'll talk about this in a second, your 15 core principles, is one of those things where if you implement this and you put in the time and the effort, change yourself within first, and then you replicate that to your team and organization, in time, you will start making some huge strides. And ultimately, if you're an organization or even an individual that does these things, I'm not saying you're recession proof, but you're able to pivot when there's economic ups and downs in the world. And we all know that those things happen. If any of us paid attention in econ class way back in the day, some of us did, most of us didn't. We were following, it's like, I forget Keynesian. I'm mixing up geometry and everything else. So anyway, yeah, that was a lot of Guinness ago. So I don't remember too much from that. But at the end of the day, it's when you have a strong foundation of service and doing it to genuinely help people, and you're helping them from a full reservoir, you're going to get back. You give and receive. It's, it makes such a big difference. So I love the book and everything that, that highlighted. And as I'm reading it, I'm like literally nodding, and I'm saying yes and highlighting it and everything else. But, one of the things that, I definitely want to get to before we wrap up is you have 15 core principles, and
Yeah.
while we don't need to go into every one of them in great detail, but I'm gonna give you the floor. You share what you want on these. But I when I made that comment earlier about poster hanging up on a boardroom wall of mission, I think these 15 principles should be up on a wall somewhere for people to stop and look at from time to time and remind themselves of these things. Because if you're an organization or an individual that is implementing these principles, boy, the impact you have on life and the people you serve is going to be absolutely amazing. So share away, how those 15 principles came about and what they are.
Sure. Thank you. So first of all, I think to your point, a lot of principles are just things that some executive leadership team came up with at a leadership summit, and they decided, and it's usually like the same key words, like integrity and trust and teamwork. And it's like, those are all great words, but nobody really buys it. And the biggest thing is the leaders don't live it. So the number one thing about our principles is I have to be accountable to it. And we actually have an email list internally that's opt-in. It's not a mandate. So anybody that wants to can opt in, and we hold each other accountable. And we had some amazing conversations that happen on that. But, regardless of what principles you pick, if you don't have an accountability mechanism, and if your people aren't empowered to hold each other accountable, and most importantly, hold the leader accountable. So the hardest part about being a leader of a service-driven organization is you actually have to live what you speak. And that's my favorite part about it, but it also is some of the most challenging because I'm a human and I fail as much as anybody, probably more than anybody. The principles came about when I had the epiphany. So I didn't tell you this it's in the book, but I didn't tell this in the story. In 2012, I was super successful with this new strategy, but I was still at a traditional firm, and I was feeling constrained and I was frustrated. And so I went off to Sedona, and I had an epiphany. And in that epiphany, it was like, wow, what if you could teach other people how to do this? What if you could actually show others and scale this? Wow, what if, Jonathan, you could actually change the industry? And so I grabbed I think it was my iPad at the time, and I just started scribbling down. I thought, what are all the things I hate about commercial real estate? And I made a long list. And then I said, what are all the things I wished were true? Like, if I could just create a utopian culture within commercial real estate, what would that look like? And I started writing stuff down. And then I took all those notes back to our small founding team. And we worked on them and honed them and debated them and sweat over them and argued over them and ultimately came up with, distilling them into 15 core principles, which are everything for us. And they are. You walk in our lobby and they're embedded in the lobby. You walk into the creation room, which is a special coaching room we have here at Kaiser, and they're embedded on the wall. And so for us, it's all about those things being true. Now, for all you leaders out there that are going, okay, how do I actually do this? Number one, buy the book. It's inexpensive, and everything you need is in there. But if you need more help, we have a bunch of additional resources where we're happy to serve and help. The Kaiser Institute I created so that we could help other people create these kind of cultures for themselves. The demand is off the charts. In the future, we're going to have a certification program so that both individual business leaders and organizations can, certify that they're operating the Kaiser way. But at the end of the day, it comes down to making sure that you have the right people that are aligned around the right mission, that are all marching in the same direction and led by a leader who's truly leading that direction. I mean, some of the biggest mistakes I see that leaders make is, being inauthentic, and people sniff that a mile away. The last point I would make on the principles piece is, at the end of the day, you get to decide as a leader what you're really going to stand for. And for me, what we decided was I didn't want to live that other way. I didn't want to live being ruthless anymore. I just didn't know that there was a better way. And once I found it, I did the hard work of reinventing myself, which took a lot of personal pain, which you read about in the book. But now we've created a culture that's extraordinary, that attracts the best and the brightest. We're going to be $1 billion organization that completely transforms commercial real estate. So if you're a broker out there listening to this going, man, I wish my firm was like that, call me, because we just brought a president and chief growth officer on board who's solely focused on scale. And we're going to start plopping offices all across North America, Number two, if you're a company out there that's sick and tired of feeling like you're being taken advantage of by a commercial real estate broker, call us. We can help. We do work globally for organizations. And then third, if you're a leader who's like, man, I want to learn how I can do this in my organization. Let me help you. Buy the book. You don't have to be ruthless to win. And then we have a bunch of free resources online at ruthlessbook.com that can help guide you through the process of doing this for yourself within your own organization.
No, it's great stuff. And I tell you, it doesn't matter what organization it is. They could be in real estate. They could be in, flooring. They could be a roofer. They could be a consultant. It doesn't matter. You implement these principles, the amount of benefit you're going to provide to your customers, people in your circle, everyone you engage with is going to notice a big difference, and they're going to go, what in the world happened to you? And I'm sure you see that, from the people that, saw you in your earlier version of yourself and what you are now. And it throws people off sometimes. They're like, wait a minute.
I honestly, that's a good point, because that's one of the harder parts. Like, remember how I said before, this is the long game. When I heard this speaker, I went up to him and I said, I was skeptical. So I went up and I said, if this is true, how come nobody else is doing it? And he said, because it takes too long. And I experienced that for myself. It took me about 5 years to reinvent myself. And in that process, it was brutal. I mean, it was a lot of skeptics, a lot of people that had known me the old way. Plus, it's not like I went from like ruthless to perfect. And so I was still, the most discouraging thing is when you screw up because you're used to the old way. So it's a process. But for those of you who really want, what I love about my life now, this is what's so crazy about it all, Michael. I used to spend all of my time trying to convince people that I was the man. And most people thought I was completely full of shit. Now, I spend all my time just trying to help other people. And everybody talks about me like I'm a great guy, and buy my book and, Amazon and Wall Street Journal bestseller, and my firm's the largest in the state and growing. And it's like, how did all this happen? It's not because I was so amazing and convinced a bunch of people. It's because I committed 15 years ago to serving others and to doing it nonstop. And that hasn't stopped. Today, the reason our firm continues to grow is I continue to serve, and I teach my people how to serve, and they go serve. And so our influence of service just grows. And unlike other organizations who they're, in quotation, salespeople are out selling, our people are out giving, helping, serving. And then people go, how do these guys get so much business? Because we're actually doing things that other people need. We're actually helping people in ways that are meaningful versus sending them yet another PowerPoint, yet another brochure, yet another flashy tech. I mean, we are working on some cool stuff. I mean, we're going to be the next generation tech-enabled commercial real estate firm. But at the end of the day, it's not about tech. Tech's just something that helps. This is about a culture of service. And if you embed that in your organization, and you have patience, and you're willing to wait and play the long game, you will have extraordinary success for yourself. And what I teach in this book is exactly how you, the reader, in any business you're in, could do this for yourself. And that's why I wrote the book. I don't care about being a best-selling author, although it's very humbling to be that. It's not about that for me. I want to change the world. I can envision a world where people selflessly help each other regardless of personal gain, understanding fundamentally that it's in their own personal best interest to do so. Not doing it because their parents told them to do, not doing it because their church told them to do, not doing it because they believe it's the right thing, so they better just do it. Doing it because they actually fundamentally believe that if they do this and they do it consistently, they're going to have an extraordinary life filled with success, amazing relationships, and all the things they ever wanted. Get your cake and eat it too, but the only way you do that is by helping others. And unfortunately, we have a business culture in today's world that teaches the opposite of that. So I'm just one voice, part of many, many voices, like, my buddy John Mackey and Raj from Conscious Capitalism, who, really have been pioneers in all this. But there's a lot, there are a lot of people that are miserable, and we're looking to give them a better path, give them an idea that it doesn't have to be that way.
I'm so thankful for you and the work that you're doing, and congratulations on being that 15-year overnight success. Yeah,
Yeah.
it takes time, people, but you know what? Just stick to it, and when you do, and you're committed, and you know it's right, and your heart of hearts, you know it's right. You just stick to it. And a quote that I say that's a little weird is, "It's going to take longer than you want it to, but it's going to happen sooner than you think." And it's a weird anomaly when it comes to this quote unquote success. And that of course has different meanings to everybody. But if when you're causing impact and service to people, and you're going to stand out amongst all of those sales brochures and yet another postcard from 18 different realtors pushing the same property, and you're like, okay.
Totally.
And it's like, I'm not, it's like, okay, great. So, my condo is going for this now. Okay, great. All right. I'm not planning on selling. Good to know what it's worth though. Great.
Totally. I mean, at the end of the day, people always ask me, they say, okay, Jonathan, what's one practical thing that I could do? And I say, it's so simple. You don't have to be crazy like me and go reinvent your entire life. All you need to do is whatever your normal day looks like already, in every interaction, rather than focusing on what you need to get out of it, just try to figure out what the other person needs to get out of it and try to help them get what they want. If you do that everywhere in your life, one relationship, one conversation at a time, you're going to be amazed at what comes back to you.
Couldn't agree with you more, sir. I've loved our conversation today, and I highly encourage people to pick up this book. It's a life-changing book for anybody that'll read it. But where's some other ways that people can get in touch with you and find out more about the awesome work that your team's doing?
Thank you. Yeah, for those interested in the book, ruthlessbook.com. And then you could also get access to all the stuff that we're doing at keyser.com, Keyser. That's our corporate site. So that's the commercial real estate firm site. And then we can also get you information on the Institute. That's at ruthlessbook.com if you'd like information on that. Or, we also do a lot of speaking. So all of those things you can get through either ruthlessbook.com, and there's a bunch of free things, including a selfless reinvention guide. If you go there, you could download that for free. But the most important thing is we want to start a generational shift. We want to start, I want a future where business leaders help each other and do it because they believe it's the best way to create success. That future will make all of our lives better, and that's my vision.
That's awesome, and I'll definitely have all that information in the show notes. Jonathan, thank you again for your book, and for being the awesome person and making that decision all those years ago to make the impact that you're making today. And I'm excited to see the awesome stuff that's going to happen in the future, because not only of this book, but of the work that you guys are doing.
It's my honor. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being here.
Hey, it's Michael again. Thank you for listening to the podcast. I really appreciate it. If you're like many people, you're dealing with some significant stress and possibly approaching burnout. I know how you feel. In 2009, my burnout led to a year of worst-case scenarios. I do not want that to happen to you. If you go to breakfastleadership.com, you can register for a free webinar on burnout prevention, as well as get a free checklist to have successful mornings. Start off each day the right way. Again, that's at breakfastleadership.com. Also, since you are a loyal podcast listener, I'm asking you to like, rate, and review my podcast on iTunes. I look at all the reviews and appreciate your comments, and it helps other potential listeners discover the content I have on the show. I appreciate you, and thanks again for listening.